lunch is the critical time for seminar. Attendance is normally down, and
Yes.
attention is also reduced.
Yes. I remember when we were in the college, the classes after lunch is are some of the most difficult classes. You
Yes.
know, you're trying to keep your eyes open, but the eyelids gets very heavy.
Yes. True.
Yeah.
That's normal.
Yes. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Then we will go ahead and start. We will go ahead and start. If so, this is live in Facebook and YouTube. Moises. All right. Okay. Then we will go ahead and start. Let's pray. Merciful and gracious Father, thank you so much once again for your blessings. Now, as we continue with the seminar of financial freedom, I pray, Lord, you will be with us through this time, and the principles shared will be a blessing and benefit for all those who are listening and attending this seminar. And may others be blessed as well as we share this information with our loved ones. Thank you again. Bless Dr. Carlos. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. Dr. Carlos, time is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. Welcome everyone back. Those of you who joined in the morning, and welcome also those of you who are joining for the first time now, the second half of these seminars. We have now two more topics for the afternoon. The first one will be on how to create a budget for ourselves or for our family. And then the second one will be on the topic of credit versus savings. So let me start here my presentation. All right. Okay. Yeah, because I have two desktops. one with the full screen and another one with the following slide. So now you should be looking at the second slide, correct?
Yes. We can see the second.
And it's full screen, right?
Yes, now it is full screen.
So now, what about now? Still full screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's continue.
So it shows what is
Personal
personal family budget. Yeah.
Great. Now I was able, because I had two screens for me to have
That's correct.
and then my notes. So great. So what is a personal or family budget? The answer is very it's a list. It's a list of all our income and all our expenses. In the expenses, we will include also our savings. If you have your microphone on, please mute it. Mute it so there is no noise in the room. Thank you. So the budget has two parts. First, all the income, and then second, all the expenses. In all the income, we need to list everything that we earn or receive, and in the list of all expenses, everything that we spend, and everything that we save, and everything that we invest. You can picture in your mind as money that comes in, that's the income, and then money that comes out, those are the expenses. There is a principle in budgeting that is that the budget should always balance. What do we mean by balance? The total income needs to equal the total expenses. For example, if your total income is 1,000, then your total expenses need to be 1,000. So there is no difference. So the difference is 0. If the expenses are 900, then you can budget savings for 100, so the balance is 0. If the expenses are more than 1,000, then you have two options. You can either increase your income by working more hours, having a second job, or you need to reduce your expenses so you can narrow the gap until it's 0. This is a very important budgeting principle. Next, where can you do your budget? Well, I'm going to share briefly now 3 ways in which you can have your budget. The first one is in an app. The second one is using a spreadsheet in Excel or a similar spreadsheet software. And the third one is just in paper and pencil. I'm using actually one app that is the one here on the right. It's called Mint by the company Intuit. This is a company that provides also accounting software, very famous, called QuickBooks, and also another software for taxing, TurboTax. And I have all my income and expenses in this app. It's called Mint. You can search for it in the Google Store or in the Apple Store. And then I also used before another app that is also very nice for me, called Every Dollar. Every Dollar is created by the organization Dave Ramsey, which is a famous Christian advisor on family finances in America. He has books and apps and advice that he provides to Christians around the world. If you look here on the left side, there is a screenshot from the Every Dollar app. So you list your income, and then you can list all your budgets. Budget means in which categories you will divide your budget. Auto insurance, gas and fuel, parking, service and parts, DSL, so forth. So you budget for the month, and then every time you spend, you enter the information in the app, and it will tell you how much you have left in each category, so you can control. The one on the right side are screenshots from the Mint app. Also here you can connect. If you use a VPN, not actually a VPN, if you can If you live in countries where the Mint is servicing with the service of connecting your bank accounts and your credit cards, then you can have updated in the app automatically how much is your cash account, cash balance, your credit debt, and so forth. And you can have these graphs for food and dining, for gas and fuel, for alcohol and bars, etc. It creates by default some categories that you can use, or you may not use, or you can create new categories according to your need. That's the first way to have your budget. The second way is in Excel. I used for many years, before I started using the apps, I used it in Excel. So I created my own spreadsheet, and then it evolved as time passed, and I created new categories and less categories and so forth. Actually, I'm planning to and my Excel spreadsheet to Akan. So if any of you then want to have the PowerPoints and my Excels for budgeting, send an email to Akan and he can forward you these files from me. In the Excel, it's something very simple. You will have a table with your income and then another table with your expenses and savings and investments. So you will list there all your income, your salary, your spouse salary, if you get any bonus, if you get any family allowance, and so forth, and then all your expenses. The tithe, offering, rent, taxes, groceries, clothing, medical, so forth, and then you close your expenses with your savings. And then, if you want, as you have in this example on the screen, you can then categorize your expenses, whether they are income and expenses, whether they are fixed, they don't change every month, or if they are variable, if they change every month, and the total. And then you can compare at the end of the month with the real income and expenses, and then in the last column, see the difference. I, for example, budgeted for my salary 1,000, and the real was 1,050. So you will have a $50 difference positive. And then you can do the same comparison for every line of the budget. If you are not familiar with apps, if you are not familiar with Excel, no worries. You can still do it in paper and pencil. The same thing that I just listed in for the Excel, you can do in paper with a pen, and you list income, 1, 2, 3, 4, total. Expenses, and you make the list of all the expenses and the total, and you can do it as simple and as complex as you need and as you want. But the question you may be asking is, why should I care about this? Why do I need a budget? Well, the budget will allow you to control your plans, your planning, your budget, your goals with the reality, the real income and the real expenses. And you can, as I showed you, determine for each category whether you use the money as planned or not. If you spend more in one category, you should spend less in another one to compensate and to balance, so the total expenses are not more than the budget. Maybe 1 month you spend more in groceries, then to be able to balance your budget, you will have to spend less in another one, in, I don't know, in transportation or in amusement, because you cannot spend more than you have. So let's have here a short example of this comparison. Let's say you are looking at expenses and you have only 3: rent, groceries, and the car expenses, and you budget 800 for rent, 500 for groceries, 250 for car. That gives you total expenses of 1,550. Then, at the end of the month, after you kept a faithful record of all your real expenses, you put into your paper and pencil or your app or your Excel the real expenses. Let's assume that the expenses, the real rent was 800, the real groceries 587, and the real car expenses 231. Therefore, then you can calculate the difference at the end of the month and say, okay, rent, I budget 800, I spend 800, so the difference is 0. Groceries, I budgeted 500, but I spent 587. Therefore, I have a negative difference of 87. I spent 87 more than I budgeted. And for the car, I budgeted 250, and I spent the real column 231. Therefore, I spent 19 less. It's a positive difference. And then you can add all the difference and total for the differences, in this example, 68, because your budget was a total of 1,550, and you spent 1,618, you spent 16 more than you budgeted. Then what decisions can you make with that? Well, I will talk about it in a while, in a few slides. But the idea is that you can compare and then make decisions for the following month to adjust, to increase, to reduce according to this comparison. So the budget control at the end of the month will give you a final balance or result. And if the income was more than the expenses, I'm not talking about the budget now. The budget needs to balance zero. But then the reality is that it will probably never be zero. You will have more income than expenses or more expenses. If you have more income than expenses, you have a positive result, and then the difference you can add it to your savings or to your investments. If you are in the opposite situation, you spent more than you earned, then you probably will be in debt. It means there is no way to spend more than you earn than using money that you already saved or getting in debt, using your credit card, and then you will pay for the difference next month when the due date is for the credit card. What is the objective of having a budget? Number one, not spending more than you earn. This is a vital principle for you to learn. You need to learn to live within your income. You need to learn to live within your earnings. If you are having a budget that includes your salary and your spouse's salary, you have a combined budget, then your expenses should not be more than the money that you are receiving. And the budget is a good tool to help you achieve this objective. And also, there is a second objective with budgeting, which is to help you to determine savings targets and then fulfill them. For example, save 10% of my income, or save 5%, or save 20% of my income. The budget will help you to budget for it and then put it aside and really achieve your savings objectives. What are some of the benefits of you having a budget for yourself or for your family? Number one, it can help you to put God first. This is what we discussed in the first seminar in the morning. The third principle of this three principles of financial freedom was to put God first. So in your budget of expenses, if you want to put God first, what will be the first line? It will be God, and it will be what you return to God. In my budget, and the suggestion I gave you already, and the ones that will come, is that your first line of expenses should be tithe, and the second line should be offerings, and then the rest. The budget helps you to be conscious, intentional in putting God first. Secondly, the budget can help you to unite your family. Why? We explained this in the second seminar in the morning. If you involve the whole in setting the goals, the objectives, and translating those goals into a monthly budget, this is an opportunity to unite the family, to have one set of goals, one set of objectives, and everyone pushing in the same direction. The budget will help you to control your expenses. Maybe you don't know that you are spending more than you should in one particular item or line of the expenses, and when you compare at the end of the month with what you budgeted, then you can, for the next month, close that faucet and decrease that overspending in those particular lines. The budget helps you to set priorities. One priority is God first, another priority is the world in second place, and then the third category of goals, as we saw earlier today, is the family. And then you can have that we want to achieve no matter what in our family, and you will give a higher priority to those lines of the budget of expenses in comparison to others that are not so important. Number 5, the budget will help you to reduce and eliminate debt. That was one of the questions in the morning. If you have debt, this is a wonderful opportunity while you do the budget to put as a line in the expenses, I want to reduce and eliminate my debt by paying every month 200 or whatever is the amount, 100 or 500. So I can reduce and finally eliminate and get rid of my debt. You put it as an expense, you put it as an outflow of money. It can also help you to live within your income. I said this is critical. This is the basic principle in budget. I need to be satisfied within my income. Number 7, having an emergency fund. I'm going to talk about this in more details in the final seminar, in the 4th seminar, but an emergency fund is a certain amount of money that you say, I will put aside for an emergency. If my son breaks a leg, if my car breaks down, I will not go crazy asking for money here or there or having to take a loan. I will be ready because I have this emergency fund. And you can only build it up if you budget for it and if you really put that money aside. Another benefit is to help you plan and provide for the future. If you want to save for buying a house or for your children's education or for your retirement, all these objectives, you can put them as lines of savings, as I will explain in the last seminar, to provide for those needs in the future. These are long-term objectives. It may take years to achieve, but if you budget for it and then set aside that money, then the budget will help you to achieve it. And finally, saving. Saving is, I would say, the second big principle that you need to earn, you need to get from this budgeting seminar, and the last one we will do later. Saving should be part of who you are. You need to learn to live within your income, plus put aside every month some money for the family objectives. You may be asking, okay, now, thank you, Carlos. I bought the idea. I need a budget, but I have never made a budget myself. How can I do it? Okay, so for answering this question. First, budgets are always for a period of time, and the period of time depends on the periodicity or how frequent most of your income and expenses happen. Most of the employees earn a monthly salary, therefore the wisest thing is to have a monthly budget of income and expenses. Other families have bi-weekly income, and therefore it's easier for them to have a budget for 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks. Other families, they have their own business, and it doesn't make much sense to make maybe even do it monthly. They prefer to do it quarterly. Well, it depends on your situation, but I would suggest the periodicity that you have for most of your income and expenses, that time frame for your budget. For most cases, and in the examples I will give here, it is a month. What is the process? It's very simple. Make a list of all your income and make a list of all your expenses. I will give in the next few slides some examples so it helps you to open your mind. And it's important, and I repeat this again, as I repeated this morning, involve the family, especially your spouse, because in a family, spouses need to be united together in fulfilling the objectives, in managing the family finances. Therefore, it's important to do the planning together, as I said earlier, but also now as we do the budget, to do the budget together. Or if one of you is better with numbers, maybe that person can prepare the draft of the budget and then share it with the spouse, and then the spouse can give input and feedback. I think there, and then the spouse that is more familiar with numbers will make the adjustments, and we work together. There is one of you who has the microphone open and is created some noise. Please mute it. Thank you. Here you have an example of a monthly income and expenses worksheet. This is in Excel, and this is one of the ways you can do it. So this is it has a little bit different format than the one I presented earlier, which was only in one column income and expenses. This one has two columns just to see them in one shot. And we start with the income per month. In this example, we have a salary of 2,400. Then we have some interest and dividends from bank accounts or investment, 35. I receive a car allowance from my employer of 450, and I get some gifts of 20. My total income is 2,905. Now I need to start deducting the expenses. In the previous example, I listed all the expenses. Here, I divide into two. First, tithe and offerings and tax, and then all the rest under a subtitle net spendable income. So I will write there how much is my budget for tithe and offering in number one, tax number two, or what is deducted from your salary in terms of taxes, medical care, insurance, if you are an employee. And then a difference between the gross income and these two items of tithe and offerings and tax, you get the net spendable income. What remains for all the other categories of expenses and paying debt and savings. So then, for example, you can have these categories: housing, and there you list all the things related to the house, bank or the rent, the insurance of the house, taxes for the house, electricity, gas, water, sanitation, cable, internet, telephone, maintenance, and other expenses of the house. And you have a subtotal for the house. Then number four, all your expenses for food. Here, to make it simple, you can have just two lines: groceries, everything you buy in the supermarket, and then restaurant food that you eat outside. And it gives a total of food. Then the expenses of your automobile, if you have a car, gas and oil, insurance, the license and registration, taxes for the car, maintenance and repairs, replacement of the car, and all of this will have a subtotal of car expenses. Then number six, insurances, life insurance, medical insurance, and other insurance you may have. Number seven in the second column, debts. I mentioned earlier that we need to get out of it as soon as possible. And that the budget is one of the benefits is that it will help us to get out of debt. So you can have a category for debt if you have debt, and then you will list there what debt you have. Debt for buying your car, debt from credit cards, debt from an educational loan, and other loans that you may have, or things that you buy on credit. You need to list them there, so you separate money from your income for paying out the debt. Number eight, entertainment and recreation, eating out, trips, babysitters, activities, vacation, others. Number nine, clothing. Number 10, savings. And here you can list your savings for the house, for the car, for vacation, to create the emergency fund, etc. For changing the refrigerator, for changing the washing machine, whatever it is, for buying a laptop, etc. For buying a new smartphone. Then number 11, medical expenses. Doctor appointment, drugs at the pharmacy, etc. Number 12, expenses of the children. Children allowance, as I explained in the previous seminar. Educational expenses, tuition and fees in the school, books, uniforms, etc. Then you can have a miscellaneous category, number 13. For example, here you will list whatever is not listed in the previous categories, like beauty expenses, going to the barber, going to the hairdresser, if you need to do laundry outside, cleaning, spouse allowance, which is something very interesting. What is a spouse allowance? I don't know if I meant, we didn't have time in the second seminar to explain this. If only one of the spouses have a salary and the other one does not have a salary, and the one receiving the salary is the one managing the finances and is not giving any money to the spouse, or maybe it's giving back only the other person, even though he or she may be in charge of the house, working a lot in the house, is not generating income, may feel less and may not have for personal expenses, personal needs. So as I suggested to give the children an allowance, I want to suggest also that you consider having your spouse who does not generate income with an allowance. For what? For his or her personal expenses. And then also under miscellaneous gifts, including Christmas gifts and other expenses. The principle is that you need to list in a standard monthly budget all the expenses that you regularly have in a particular year. And then divide, as I will explain, expenses that happens only once per year over 12 months, so it in the budget. And it's already set, the money is set apart for the time when that particular expense that is not recurring, that does not happen every month, actually comes. For example, the yearly vacation. And then at the bottom, you can do the total expenses and compare your total spendable income with the total expenses, and the budget difference should be 0. So let me now go again through some of the lines that you can have for income and then later for expenses. For sure, you need to list your salaries and your wages if you're an employee. Don't forget any commission that you may be getting or bonus. If you are not an employee, you are a self-employed and you are a freelance or you have a business, then include for your family budget, your net organization, every institution, and even every church has their own budget. Then the same we are doing in family, but the same you should be doing if you are a self-employed, if you are a freelance, if you have your small or big business. And why I say you need to include your net income in your family budget? Because in your business budget, you will include all the expenses of your business. So you generate revenue by your sales, then you deduct all your business expenses, and then the difference to support your family, it's called net income, that you will include in your family budget. Also, if you are already retired, you are no longer working, you will have maybe a pension or a retirement fund. That will be, in your case, your income. If you are having other sources of income, like a family benefit from your employer, or an allowance, or some sort of pension, everything that comes in needs to be included in the list of income. If you have a bank account, or a fixed deposit, or a certificate of deposit, and it's giving you interest every month, don't forget to include also this in your list of income. If you have shares of stock of a particular company, or you are partially owner, 50%, 33%, 20% of a business, then you will have a profit participation. That will be part of your income. If you already invested in a house or in an apartment and you're receiving rent from that real estate property, then that will become also part of your income. If you receive any donation or gifts, as someone asked before, it should be included also as part of your income. If you are working as a waitress in a restaurant and you get bonuses or tips, then those become also part of your income. Any other income should be included. Grants, compensations, anything that becomes money coming in needs to be included in the list of income. Once you finish the list of income, then you can start doing the list of expenses. And here, I want to suggest that if you are going to do the budget for the first time, and you receiving or spending in all the categories, you need to do a best guess, the best guess possible. Do an approximation, an estimation of what you are getting or what you are spending in each of those lines. If you have fixed income or fixed expenses, then it's very easy because they are the same every month. For example, if you pay rent for your apartment, or if you pay tuition and fees for the school of your children. There are others that will vary each month, like groceries or clothing or medical expenses. They go up and down every month. Therefore, what I suggest is that you do an average of the year. If you can do an estimation of those numbers going up and down, calculate an average. And then the average put in your budget. Also, include in your budget of expenses your goals. Your short term, like what happened every month, like the food. The medium term, what happened once a year, like you're on a vacation. And the longer term goals, like saving for a house. Don't forget any of those goals or objectives. Those need to be listed as expenses. Also, another way to look at the expenses is to list them in order of importance. I said in the previous seminar that we can have 3 goals in our family: God, the world, and the family. And you can actually create categories under these 3 big themes. In the God, the family covenant with God, the testing God, the tithes and offerings. In the world, the offerings and charity and help to people and families. And then in family, all the rest. So I'm going to give now in the next couple of slides some big list of, so it opens your mind, and as you start listing your expenses, you don't forget of anything. Taxes need to be included. Medical insurance, if you have other insurances, you need to be including them as expenses. Debt, how much you are going to pay according to your period of time in your budget. If it's monthly budget, how much are you going to pay every month to cancel your debt? The rent or the housing taxes, the utilities or the maintenance of the house, the communications, the cell phone, the internet, the phone, the landfall in the house, the groceries, everything that you buy in the supermarket. And then if you need to go to the restaurant on a day-to-day basis because you cannot return to your house, that needs to be included as expenses. Amusement or entertainment, which is outings and enjoyment activities with your spouse, needs to be included and budgeted. Clothing, medical, educational, transportation, children's allowance, spouse allowance, books and movies, office supplies and software, equipment that you need to buy from time to time, and then finally, savings. And savings can be for many things. I gave already a few examples, but you can continue the list. You may be saving for buying new furniture, or because you lack some furniture in your house. Home appliances like the washing machine, the refrigerator, and others. Tools, electrical and electronic equipment, replacing or buying vehicles, a car or a motorcycle or a scooter or even a bicycle. Trips that you need to do for your work or for the family, the annual holiday, the emergency fund that I mentioned. To buy or refurbish the home, you can have this goal, which is very important, for your retirement, for yourself or your children. All these can be examples of objectives for which you can have a savings goal. One thing that is important for us to remember is that the budget and the list of expenses in our budget needs to be as real as possible, but at the same time, flexible. What do I mean by flexible? That if you made a miscalculation, then when you do the real calculation and the comparison, then your budget is not fixed, but rather flexible. You can make the change, the amendment for the following month. And then month number 2, you see that you overestimated or underestimated some lines, and you adjust them for month number 3. This is what I mean by having a flexible. It will not constrain you, but it will rather make you free. And you can manipulate, adjust, increase, decrease as needed from one month to the other. I mentioned already, if you have periodic expenses that happens only once per year, or it happens twice per year, like for example, the annual vacation, or for example, paying the tax of the house or the tax for the car, then I suggest that instead of budgeting those expenses in the month that they occur, that you divide over 12 months and you put one small piece in your budget in every month. So the yearly expense you divide over 12 and you put that amount in your monthly budget. Why? Because you can have, so you don't need to create multiple budgets for the different months. You have, and you are already making provision for these periodic expenses because you are going to balance your budget. You will be saving 1 month so you can spend on it when in the other month when that particular expense really comes. In the list of expenses, you need to include, as I mentioned already, the savings. And I want to suggest that the savings goals, you mentalize yourself that it's like a fixed expense. It's like a payment that you must do. There is no way out to the bank. And you are as careful with those savings as you are with paying to the bank a loan that you need to pay back. You separate that money every month carefully according to the budget of savings. I mentioned the answer to the question already, but I want to emphasize, should the budget be balanced? Budget needs to equal the total income to the total expenses. The difference should be 0. And then, as I said, then the real thing will be different. But the budget needs to balance. If you have a positive balance, if your income is more than expenses, then you can increase your savings or your expenses, or you can cancel your debt faster. If your budget is negative, you have more expenses than income, then you have only 2 options. You need to increase your income by having extra work more hours, get additional job, or you can reduce your expenses, or number 3, a combination of both of these. So what is better in the long run? Thinking in terms of 10 years, 20 years, 40 years for your family. Being indebted beyond your capacity, or enjoying the peace of being debt-free. I want to propose that it's better to be debt-free. And the budget is a wonderful tool that we can use to become debt-free and achieve financial freedom. So what if I have debt? This was one of the questions in the previous seminar, and I said we are going to talk briefly about this in the budgeting seminar. I said the short answer is cancel them as soon as possible. SAAP, as soon as possible. Get rid of your debt. Ellen White says we need to run away of the debt like we will run away of leprosy or a deadly disease, incurable disease. How can you get out of that? Well, you need to make a list of all your debt. Let's say you have 3 debt: credit card, a car loan, and clothing in a store. You need to make a list of all your debt. Then I suggest you order them in ranking according to the interest rate. Putting the one with the highest interest rate first. Maybe one is 25% interest rate, the other is 15, and the other one is 5. Then you need to order them in that order, and then I suggest that you cancel first the one with the highest interest rate, and when you finish that one, you cancel the second one, and when you finish the second one, then you start paying to cancel the third one. And then you need to determine what is your monthly amount that you can allocate from your budget for debt cancellation. And then you put it in your budget. And then you can calculate how many months it will take you to cancel all your debt until you are debt-free. Let's give a simple example. Let's say your total debt is $10,000. Total capital plus interest, $10,000, and you can pay $500 per month that you can put in your budget for canceling every month. Therefore, it will take you how many months? 10,000 divided 500, 20 months. In 1 year and 8 months, you can be debt-free. Much of the success in the management or administration of the budget, that is in the positive result that we will have at the end of the month when we compare the budget with the reality, will be determined by what? The knowledge that each family member, even the children, has of the budget. And it will depend on their interest and collaboration to keep the expenses of each account or category according to the expected budgeted amounts. As a family experience the financial freedom that comes from fulfilling our budget and fulfilling the goals, family goals that will be included in the budget. As you can see, it's very important what we do at the end of the month, that comparison. We call it budget control. Having a budget is not enough to make the changes. Even if you make the comparison, you need to monitor, make the comparison, the implementation of the budget, and then later you can take family decisions. So to be able to do this control, you need to, number one, keep a faithful record. You need to faithfully record somehow all your income and all your expenses, the real thing, so then at the end of the month, you can compare with your budget based on the differences in each line, in each category of income and expenses. You can make family decisions. So let me explain to you how I keep the record in my house. If you come today to my house, you will see that in the living room, there is one cabinet, one drawer. And inside that drawer, you will see this brown basket. What is this basket for? This is the basket in which we place every single receipt or invoice of expenses that we do. Every day my wife goes out, she comes with the receipts and she places them here. Every day I go out and spend something in groceries, whatever it is, when I return, I put it in this basket. So we keep here all the receipts, all the invoices of all our expenses. What if you buy something in the store, the small shop next to your house, or below your house, below your apartment building, or in the vegetable store, and you do not get a receipt? Well, what we do, and you can see in the picture there, that square white paper is handwritten, and it says there, July 10, groceries, 10,000 lira. July 11, pharmacy, 15,000 lira. July 15, bread or water or whatever it is that I bought, and I did not get any receipt, any paper, any documentation, then I come and we list here in this list of paper. Therefore, at the end of the month, I will go there to the basket and I will empty the basket, and I will have a faithful record of all the expenses and the income. Well, or in these little pieces of paper that we handwriting, we wrote down what we spent. The objective is to know at the end of the month how much I receive and how much I spend, and then I can categorize all these little receipts and papers in the same categories that I have in the budget. Groceries, budget 500. Now I can add with my calculator or in Excel, or in the if I'm using the app will do it for me. I will enter, I spend in a one supermarket or in Howley supermarket 50,000 lira or 80,000 lira. I enter the information into that category. If you do it in paper, then you do it with the calculator and you add the total of groceries, and then you will be able to compare with the budget. So every day in one place like this basket, you can do it in different ways. You can put it in a glass jar, you put there all the receipts as you wish. The thing is to keep all invoices, receipts, and the salary slips for my income, and then write down all the transactions without a receipt. So at the end of the month, I can, for example, if I'm doing in Excel, do my total like this. The same categories that I use for my budget, I will use now for my real expenses. I can do just one column for the total of the month, or I can do, as the example here on the screen, one column for each week. If I want to know what I earn and what I spend in week number 1 of the month, week number 2, number 3, number 4, and week number 5 if the month has 5 weeks. And then I add the 5 columns and I get the total for the month. And then with this total of the month, I can compare with the budget and differences. If you are looking at the differences in income, you will use a positive symbol if the real income was more than the budget. And you will use a negative symbol if the real income was less than the budget. You receive less salary than you budget, then it's a negative difference. When you go to expenses, it's the opposite. If you spend less than the budget, it's a positive difference. If you spend more than the budget, it will be a negative difference. And then this is the fun part at the end of the month. I will analyze line by line each difference, and I can, with my spouse, make decisions for the following month. If we spend too much in one category, let's say groceries, and we discuss and say, yes, we could have spent less. We can buy cheaper stuff, or we can reduce consumption. Therefore, I can have a lower real expense in groceries to meet my budget for the following month. If something was budgeted and then it was not used, but it was something that you really wanted to do, then next month you can remember to use money according to your budget for that particular thing that is important for the family. For example, an outing or whatever it is. And this is, for example, what you can do in Excel. If you do it in Excel, then you can have one column for your budget, and then a second column for the real income and expenses, and then the third column will be the difference. For example, the first line is salary. If you budgeted 2,700, the real salary was 2,600, you will have a negative difference of 100. Or let's go to the first line of housing, the mortgage or the rent. The budget was 400, and you spend 400, the difference will be 0. If you're the second line, the insurance, you budgeted for the insurance of the house 35, and you spend 40, you spend 5 more, therefore it's negative, with a negative symbol or in parentheses. Electricity, you budgeted 120, and you spend 115, therefore you have a positive difference of 5. And then you can ask yourself for each line, why do we have this difference? Is it because we spent less? Is it because we spend more? Is it because we were not careful, or because we were too much strict with ourselves? And then the following month, you can make adjustments in the budget and in the real implementation according to this. You can make this number 3, decisions. Each month, you can sit down with your family to make wise decisions based on the analysis. If the income is below the budget, how can we increase the budget? Can we have more salary? Can we work extra hours? Can some of our teenage children do some small works over there to complement our budget? On the other hand, can we reduce the expenses? Which one? Which category can we reduce? If we are looking into grocery, which is a main line in every family budget, can we optimize the grocery shopping, buying only seasonal fruits and vegetables instead of those that are more expensive? Can we buy wholesale? Some stores sell in bunches of 12 units or 6 units, and you can have a lower price by buying wholesale instead of retail. Can we bake our own bread instead of buying bread? That can be another decision that you make. And something very important, if you go shopping with your stomach empty, Research shows that you will buy more than if you go with your stomach full. Therefore, eat before shopping. And when you go shopping, only buy what you have in your list. According to your budget, make a list, and every week or twice per week when you go to the supermarket, only buy what you have on your list. Related to clothing, can you buy clothing from last season that is cheaper and at a discount compared to this season? Can you buy second-hand clothing? Can you buy on-sale items only? Related to equipment, for example, I don't know, a washing machine. Can you buy it in a garage sale of a family who is replacing their appliances, and you can get a good deal? You need to analyze line by line and see how you can improve. Your children also, as I mentioned, old enough, teenage years. In my case, I started working when I was in the end of high school. Can your children work for some extra cash or to help pay their school fees? Even if they cannot work during the year, during the summer, they can do canvassing, or they can work in construction. My brother worked in canvassing. I went to work in construction. This will help the children also grow in their self-esteem, in their character, and help with the family budget. If you look at the savings objectives, how did we do? Did you meet your savings objectives? If you didn't, how can you meet your savings objective? Can you generate some extra income for achieving some of these savings goals? As these examples I have here are things I did as I was growing up, even into college. All my college year I work, washing cars, baking. I even borrow a ravioli machine, and I made ravioli, which is a pasta that everyone in my country loves, and I sold to my neighbors ravioli. When children and teenagers and young people have attractive goals to, for example, have a nice family vacation, they will help to achieve those goals by generating extra income. Pray, reflect, and pray again as you do your budget and as you monitor the implementation at the end of the month. Ask God, is this the best way to go forward? How do you want us to improve next month? And talk and analyze and evaluate and assess with your spouse and your children so you can improve. And remember to put God first and to be thankful and rest in the promises of God. He said, test me and see whether I will not open the windows of heaven and pour down on you blessings until it will overflow. I want to finish by giving just the titles or the concepts from several advice from the Spirit of Prophecy, from Ellen White. Most of these come from the book Counsels on Stewardship. If anyone is interested in the specific quotations, I have them. If you send me an email, I can send you those quotations. She says that budget should be practical and simple for children to understand and get involved. She says that expenses must be real and decided by the family group. She says that we need to avoid superfluous gratification and consumption. We should not spend on self-gratification or sumptuous luxury things instead of considering the cause of God as a priority. She says is devoted to against selfish gratification, that parents are to bring up and educate and train their children in habits of self-control and self-denial. She says that we should consider the temporary blessings, not only look at the eternity, but also the blessing that God wants to give us here on this earth when we are generous. And this is something that you can include in your budget, in the line or the category for the world. Those who are abundant in benefiting others will realize the wondrous blessing in their hearts and in their lives. She says the work of charity has a double blessing. One blessing for the one you are helping and another blessing for you, the giver. She says that the giver's heart expands as you give and as you grow in generosity. She says attends or comes when all attends all labors just in proportion as we obey God's requirements of systematic benevolence, of putting God first regularly, systematically, proportionally from our income, both tithe and offerings. She says, number 10, that every wise steward, and I want to be a wise steward, and I want to encourage you to be a wise steward of the means that God entrusted in our hands, we will enter into the joy of the Lord. He will tell us, good and faithful servant, you have been faithful in very little, now come in, enjoy the reward that the Father and the Spirit and me, we have prepared for you. We can hold on to the sure promise of our Savior's soon return. I can do later in home. As you start thinking of sitting around your table with your spouse and children to do your budget, you also need to think in how are you going to do it? Are you going to do it in paper? Are you going to do it in Excel? Are you going to use one app? One thing you can do if you want to use an app, most of us now are using apps for everything in our phones, then is to go to your Apple Store, your Google Play Store and search for budget app. And then you will see many options there. So which one is the best? I suggest you compare the features of many, at least 3 of them. Choose the 3 apps with most positive reviews and then compare if they are free or paid, or if they have in-app purchases, if they allow you to do goal tracking for your goals, if they synchronize across multiple devices, so you can use the app in your phone, in your tablet, in your laptop, if they have a good security measures to protect your data, your information, and even if you are able to to synchronize with your bank accounts and with your debit and credit cards. And then you choose the best app according to this simple analysis, and then you can start trying out, and if you don't like one, you can switch to another one until you find the best app or system for you to have your budget. We finish here with the presentation. Now we have time for questions and answers. Akam.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Carlos. That was a fantastic presentation on budget. And those who have not been doing budget, please start doing budget and follow your expenses. Keep track of them. It is important. And so now those of you who have questions, you can either type it in the chat or you can unmute and ask your question.
If also you have any good example from your past experience of doing a budget, please share it. If you did a budget that it didn't work, share it also so we can help each other. We can help each other to improve and continue with budgeting.
Okay. All right. Anybody wants to ask a question?
As you said at the beginning, after lunch, we slow down.
Either that or everybody understood. It was so well presented that everybody understood. It is really important. I think the principle of live within your means, that should be taken very seriously. Now, let me just very quickly share an experience of there was a family that was struggling and the church was helping. And then all of a sudden, through a huge party of the 60th birthday of their daughter. And I mean, those things is because of, unwise decision making. I mean, here the people are helping to manage your daily expenses, and then here you throw a big party. So those are things that I think obviously we should avoid. Learning to live within our means,
Yes.
right? So that's important. Anyone chat? Let me see. There are two chats here. Okay, no questions. They are just thanking you, Dr. Carlos.
Welcome.
Wonderful presentation. No question.
I have a small contribution to add
All
it.
right. All right, Frederick, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for opportunity you have given to me. This is my little experience I have in budget. Yeah, during our time in Ghana, we have a big church, but we have no budget for the district and as the church as a whole. But one of the pastors introduced. We went to a seminar in a conference workshop. After they present us budget and they teach us how to draw a budget. So when we came back to local church, we tried to implement the budget. Now, am I saying that this budget helped the local church to improve our financial contribution, as well as the district were able to achieve our target for the year. So I'm saying this because when you make a budget for your family, or when you make a budget for the church, or when you make a budget for yourself, it helps you to go by your budget, and it will help you to improve your financial status. Not only that, if you don't have budget, you just use money as much as how you want. Anything you see you think is good for you, so you can buy it or you can do it by that. But if you have budget, it helps you for you to go by. And the most important thing of budget is that you must to review your budget all the time. You must to review your budget to see whether you are going beyond your budget or you are not getting there. So, Dr. Carlos, I thank you so much for introducing this very important seminar for us. It has motivated me more to do more about my budget, and I will help the church also to do more about the budget, which will help them to improve their financial status. Thank you so much, and may God bless you, Dr. Carlos. Thank you so much. This is my little experience I have in budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frederick.
All right. Thank you so much for that experience testimony shared. Okay, we need to close by 5 o'clock, so we'll gain some time here. We will go for a break, and then we shall return. Now is 3:10. We shall return by 3:25. Can we do that? It is scheduled to be 3:45, but we will take a break earlier, and we shall return by 3:25. And the last topic that Dr. Carlos will present is credits and savings. Which one is better? All right. So that's what we will deal with. There is a question here from Jacqueline. Do you have to involve your family even when they are not contributing anything? Let's say a project in that you are the only provider. Jacqueline, I think you joined late. This was already talked about in the presentation. But yes, your family members, even though they are not contributing, even your children, needs to be involved. Okay, and please go and listen to the seminar presentation again because this is already recorded and it will be posted so you can listen to it again and you will have your answer clear and loud. Okay. All right, so we are going for a break. Thank you very much for attending. You don't have to sign out. You don't have to leave. You can just go take a break and come back by 3:25. Thank you. We will continue this seminar by 3:25 again. you.